to the Bigwater podcast. I am Ross Robertson. You guys know I fish, that's what I do. But when the wind blows like today or we take a little downtime, we try to talk about it too. We've got a guest that's a little different because I'm not going to label her as a kayak fisherman, but I think if you know what she does already, you're probably going to say she's the kayak girl. Kristine Fischer, thank you for coming aboard.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
So I'm just jump right out of the gate and say, the kayak thing. I work with a company, Fish USA, and they've got like a bunch of kayak guys. I mean, they've got all these kayak pro staff guys, and when we go sit in some of these meetings, I'm like the minority as a boat guy. You know what I mean? Which is pretty rare. And there's almost, it's like between like the bass and the walleye thing a little bit. There's the kayak guys versus the boat guys. Do you get that at all?
I think to some degree, I feel that. I've got a lot of really good friends of mine, fish professionally on the boat side of things. So I don't really necessarily see that segregation there as much. But I guess in some of the groups and some of the online forums, you get your kayak collection, your boat stuff. But not too bad. I mean, fishing's the common denominator, and that kind of unites us all in a way. So that's more what I focus on.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think in reality, that's the internet world or the keyboard commandos. The people that are really doing it for a living, there's a mutual respect, and it's
right.
It's playful jabbing. I'm going to take a few shots at those guys, but it's all in a playful jab because it's definitely a different level of respect. But at any rate, some of the people that, kind of follow what I do that maybe don't know what you do or maybe just don't know to the, the depth. A lot of times we see you catching fish or you see something on Instagram, but you don't really get to know the person. So let us, take us back there a little bit and how, where did you come from and your kind of early rise there? I know a little bit of your story because we have some mutual friends, but let me in on that.
So I was born and raised in a small town in Nebraska. Like 800 people, and I was luckily brought up by a very outdoors-oriented family. We fished family walleye tournaments. That was kind of a big thing growing up. That's my childhood revolved around fishing. I did it growing up and kind of steered away from that. I was big into sports, and I played college volleyball. So my college years, I kind of got away from fishing a little bit. But then in my early 20s, picked right back up and worked in an outdoor sporting goods store. I was up the hunting manager, and I sold in fishing and in guns, and worked as a bow tech for a while. So that kind of became a big part of my life again. I bought my first kayak a few years after that because I saw a flyer that was brought into the bow shop for a kayak tournament, and I was like, man, like this is kind of cool. I didn't know this thing existed. So I signed up. I took third, and from there I was hooked. And that kind of was the segue into me fishing kayak tournaments. I started qualifying for some of the bigger national stuff. And for the last 2 years, I've lived on the road full time and just fish in the national kayak tournaments and following the trails there and just kind of doing that. So
I can see from the back seat of your truck there, you're kind of like me. I'm prepared for anything. I've got insulated suits, uninsulated, change of boots, change of that. I mean,
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, hey, that's street cred right there. That's what that is. If you see somebody with too clean of a back seat doing what we do, they probably aren't prepared enough, right?
Right. I'm literally prepared for an apocalypse in this truck. I've got a lot of things.
You might need to be.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy as the world goes on. So. Again, I don't want to throw things out there. I want you to tell me, but I had heard, kind of rumors that you made a big jump. You kind of, sold your house or rented a house or whatever, and you said, hey, I'm basically going to put my stuff up in storage. And, and I've heard this story from a few bass guys, and you hear this story a lot of times from people, but then, they don't make it, maybe 6 months or something, and they just, whether it's family stuff or money or all of the above, you've gone all in with this.
I have. I was in a unique situation, and my whole life I've been wired a little differently. I've got the mentality that no matter what I can do, I'm going to fail probably 7, 8 times, but I'm going to get back up, and that 9th time I'll be successful. And I don't have kids, I don't have any pets, and so I was put in a situation to where I was able to do that. And I've always been kind of financially savvy in the means of understanding money, how it can work for you, and how to save it, and not be negligent with it, I guess is what I would say. So I've been able to kind of do it, and I didn't just I preach this all the time. It's not like I just one day woke up, I was like, I'm going to quit my job and go do this. I was very tactful about it. I saved a amount of money and I picked up some side gigs along the way. I've been a freelance writer for 8 years now for various outdoor media outlets, and, was able to kind of pick up little things here and there. And I'm a minimalist. I literally can live on very little. So it was kind of the perfect storm for me. And I knew that if I kept, pushing this is my dream, I'm going to make it work. And I'm making it work.
That's definitely the thing. When you do what we do for fishing, you definitely have to have the right gear and all your stuff. But I can completely relate when I made the switch and said, hey, I'm going to fish for a living. You're going to have to give up some things. And your time is obviously one of them. That's what you could do at the beginning. But not having to have all the crazy things is almost mandatory. I mean, because it seems like a lot of people I know that have a lot, and again, I don't dissing on anybody for doing it a different way than I've personally done it. But if you have a trust fund or you came into it because, somebody owns a huge business and they give you, some sponsorship because it's a family friend, those guys generally don't make it long term because I don't think they have, like you said, you said it in a different way, but the fortitude or, the drive of knowing, hey, I'm going to get my teeth kicked in.
Yeah. You've got to have the grit. It's grit. That's what it is. And I don't see that very much anymore. And so when a lot of my solo travels, I came across people that I recognized immediately, that same type of tenacity and grit, and just, that's kind of a dying trait. And it's really cool to see some people that kind of resurface a lot in this industry, because fishermen, I think, are wired. A lot of them are wired that way. Like we can do this. Most of us, I'm sure you have slept in your truck at a boat ramp to get on that right bite, eat ramen noodles. And that's where a lot of us kind of, I think, got our start. And it's kind of a cool thing, I think.
I think it is too, but again, it's funny because as my producer, I see him sometimes kind of roll his eyes on me because we do so many of these podcasts, and I've had guys that, I started fishing on the tour with 20 years ago. And, they're like the one guy with, he's now a rep, and we talk about these things, and it's really the same story in a different way or a different relationship, how it relates to these guys. But, talking with you, I can see it's kind of the same thing. And, in full disclosure, I don't know you, but yet really quickly, I can remember just looking at your social media feed the other day when we were going to kind of try to, set this up, and several people I know in the industry said, hey, you need to talk with her. I was doing a podcast with the guys from Bassmaster, and they're like, you need to talk with her. Because to be perfectly honest, I don't want to get into this too much. We'll talk about a little bit later, but, I'm selective on who I kind of, I don't want to put somebody up here that's like not the legit deal. And as I was looking at that and I saw, we talked on the phone and you're like, yeah, I'm on St. Clair today. Well, I live roughly an hour and a half from there and I was on the water. And let's just be frank, it was shit. So there was a lot of people that didn't go out that day. I know a lot of guys that think that they were tough, and I actually said to one of my guys that works for me, I said, hopefully this doesn't come across wrong, but I said, hey, there's a chick up there in a kayak in St. Clair today, candy ass, and you've got to have a certain level of, I don't care how talented you are with fishing, there's just a little bit of, like you said, you're going to get your teeth kicked in. We've done these podcasts with, with professional athletes and people that are just really excel at what they do, and they all seem to have those same traits, like you said, and I don't think that those traits are a majority. They're definitely a minority anymore.
I would think so too. Well, I always tell people this. I think it's a universal fact that women have a certain element of crazy, right? Some women have that crazy.
I'm glad you said it.
I will. I don't care about that. Some women will key your car. They'll get super clingy or whatever. My crazy is that I'm that girl out there in that wild weather because the bite is so freaking good and I don't want to get off the water. And the weather was terrible. I mean, it sucked. I couldn't feel my fingers for hours after, but I caught back-to-back 5-pound smallmouth. I'm like, the last thing I'm thinking about is the weather. And just 2 days ago, there was a kayaker that was rescued by the Coast Guard out there, and I was out there. And luckily, I was north of the ramp when that north wind came raging, and I've never seen St. Clair flip like that. And I've been out there in some really hairy stuff. And I luckily got back in, but I thought I was going to flip the kayak, and there was a guy that flipped, and another guy had to get rescued. It's it's kind of wild.
We were headed out for our afternoon shoot yesterday, and there was a guy on a stand-up paddleboard, and I was telling him, I'm like, shoot that, because there's a difference sometimes between having fortitude or drive and being stupid. Like we were thinking, like here's this guy, and he's not even in a dry suit or a wetsuit, and I'm like, this water is like 40 degrees. Like if that dude falls in out there, he was he was probably 2 miles offshore. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, you're gonna
it's not
tighten up
good.
and you're done.
Yep. Yeah,
You're over
there's
with.
that you nailed it right there. There was a guy I saw out in a Sin kayak with no life jacket on, and a Sin is a little sit inside, $200 kayak, and that's stupid. I've done some things that are pretty stupid in my day, but I like to think that I've wisened up just a little bit, and I may push the needle, but you got to be smart when it comes to Mother Nature for sure.
Well, and as you get more experience, you not only make better decisions, but you're able to handle those situations better, right? That's
Right.
part of life, aside from just
Absolutely.
fishing. But,
Yeah.
so when you made that jump, though, you said you kind of took some things. I was just doing a little research, and it said you won the Hobie World Qualifier. Was that kind of like your breaking point deal, or?
Yeah, I think so. That was last year, and the year before that was my first true year on the national trail, and I actually was really consistent. I mean, I cashed 15 checks, I think, 2 years ago. I had a second place, couple thirds, couple fourths, and these out of 100+ anglers. But nobody cares if you're not first, right? And I really felt that
It's like a
I
Ricky
was,
Bobby comment coming here, isn't it?
yeah. I was like, man, like I had a great year, and I was up in the rankings of all the kayak anglers on the national trail, which I was really proud of. But I felt like, that last year I not only won one big national tournament, I won three. And that just catapulted, I think, my career a little bit and had people really take notice. Even though I wasn't as consistent last year, I think I cashed 9 checks last year, but the year before that, like I said, I was so consistent all over. But last year I won some big ones, and go ahead.
How many events do you guys do in a year?
I usually do, I think I've got 20 on the book.
Wow.
20 national ones, couple local ones here and there, but 20 big ones. Yeah.
That's kind of a lot. I mean, so
It is.
Again, I'm ignorant on these things, okay? I usually bust the chops of the kayak guys, you know what I mean? You can't really make a living off winnings with the kayak thing. You're doing it more from the promotion standpoint and working with sponsors and stuff like that. Is that kind of the same as walleye guys?
Yes and no. Yes and no. There's one tournament that pays 100 grand to the winner. There's another tournament that pays 25, 30. The average, a lot of my first place winnings are anywhere from 5 to 10,000. So if you're there, I know there are 3 of my friends that made over $45,000, $50,000 strictly from tournaments last year. Now these guys, I mean, I consider myself a decent angler. These guys one of them could very well be on the leads, and he's friends with a lot of the elite anglers, and they would attest to that too. I mean, there's some serious competition in the kayak deals, and I think he won like 60 grand last year. But yeah, for me, I can't just solely make a living off of my tournament winnings, and I don't think you should ever bank on that, whether you're on the pros or not. Sponsorships and little side gigs there and there.
Yeah,
yep.
That's icing on the cake. Yeah, because if you have to rely on that, because having been there, done that, to me, when you have that pressure on yourself, and I've done several podcasts with guys that I used to fish against on the tour, and they had a different take than I did, but if you have to rely on your earnings to pay the mortgage, and that's the only way to do it, to me, you just put so much pressure on yourself that I don't think you can fish clean.
No. Well, it's gambling. I don't want to gamble to make a living. I mean, I'll bet on myself all day, but when it comes down to it, I need to know that I'm going to be taken care of, and that's why I work really hard on the side to be able to continue to do this. And the winnings, that's a bonus. That's trip money right there.
But I mean, it's the elephant in the room here, so I'll dance gingerly through this, but I'm not real good at that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of like a sledgehammer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a passive aggressive person at all. I'm pretty blunt, so feel free to throw it my way.
Well, here comes a sledgehammer. So the winning was probably huge for you, just because of the woman stereotype. Because again,
huge.
I've worked with, and I'm not judging you or any other woman in the fishing industry, but I know that I've worked on staffs and done things where they're like, hey, Ross, you need to go catch this fish or do this or bring this person along because of a gender situation. You know what I mean? And you're like,
oh, yeah.
I don't think that that's helping women at all myself, but I mean, because it certainly doesn't help Miss Fisher here. I mean,
no, it honestly, it infuriates me. That's one of the things that, before I even started fishing the national tournaments and just loosely started posting pictures on Instagram, my inbox was flooded with companies offering pro staff that didn't even know who I was. I guided for years and years. I guided turkey hunts. I guided kayak fishing trips. They didn't know that. They didn't care. They didn't care if I was catching the fish, if I could talk about their product, if I used their product. All they saw was blonde hair, big smile, big fish. And I was like, man, like, this can't be that easy. I don't want that. I would never respect myself or be able to sleep at night if I wasn't going to earn my keep in this and let people know, like, look, I'm here. I want the respect for being a talented angler over anything, not my gender, not anything else. And I hate the fact that it's so easy for a female to get these opportunities. That I hate that. I really do. So I made it my goal to really go out there and just work my freaking tail off to, prove that I can do this too. And I'm going to earn every responsibility every opportunity that I get. That was kind of my goal.
So we lost you for a second there. The internet and all that stuff's great, except for when you're in places like we tend to end up, and it locks up on us. But, I was saying, Al Linder, and I know this is definitely putting my foot in my mouth, but I was at a NPA meeting, and Al Linder brought a golf club out, and he said, and this is kind of a big deal for him because he's not like controversial. Like, people aren't surprised when I say things like this.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, hey, there's too many people making decisions in our business that carry one of these around and don't know what one of these is, and he's waving a fishing rod. And that's kind of that same thing where some of these people that just don't understand, or they make those decisions that they hurt me, they hurt women in fishing, they hurt kayaking, anything. Because when you make decisions and you're doing things and you don't have even trying to understand it, it just can't be a good thing. That could be if you're selling makeup or, drugs to cure cancer.
It's not genuine. It's not authentic. And it does a huge disservice for the people that are out there living this life. And it's actually been a big part of their life and, live and breathe it like we do. It's a huge disservice for sure. And that's something that I'm trying to remedy as I'm going along on my journey, is to kind of redefine the stereotype that is the female angler, and kind of hopefully get companies to get better ambassadors, or just do some vetting. Maybe is that too much to ask?
Well, I think it's a tough deal on both sides. I mean, again, I'm really going to bark up a bad tree here, but I think that guys are guys, right? Mm-hmm. And I say this all the time. It's like I'll even go the different route, saying the Kardashians. Like, I've got people around me that watch the Kardashians on TV, and I just absolutely want to just shoot myself, right? And they're like, I'm like, if you don't watch it, they can't make millions of dollars for doing nothing.
Right.
And it's the same thing with guys that say stuff, about, hey, there's chicks in a bikini and holding up a fish that somebody else caught or whatever. But there's a lot of women too that obviously I won't name names, but I'm sure we could come up with a similar list of people, women that have been in the industry that are like, oh, I need to be taken seriously. And you're like, you don't even fish. Like, take you seriously for what?
Right. It's really tough, because it's like, for me, it puts me in a tough spot, because I want to come across supportive of women in fishing, which I am. But at the same time, man, some people make it very hard to do so.
Yeah.
Very hard.
The best thing you got going for you is if you win, that just in everything, they say winning fixes a lot of things. And that, for sure, you can't get much more street cred if you keep winning.
No, honestly, that was, for me, that's the only way I saw that I could do it, right? That I could really prove, like, hey, I'm the real deal. That, and when I get up there and give seminars and talk, and I can hold a elevated conversation with anglers, because I know what I'm doing. I know the ins and outs of everything. I know the science behind stuff. I know the technique. I know a lot of this. I'm able to kind of prove myself there. But without that, nobody takes me seriously. I remember working my first fishing show, and even when I worked up in hunting and fishing up in a sporting goods store, I'd get overlooked every single time by everybody, and ask for a male associate to help them out or work on their bow. And it's definitely frustrating, but like I said, I've got pretty thick skin, and it's just something that is kind of the norm for me now. And I hope to continue to change that as it goes, though.
I don't know. That is a tough deal, because I don't know if there's a way around that in the near future, to be honest.
Probably not. I mean, the thing is, though, I can't sit here and talk down about it because I do it too. You know, I walk up to ICAST some of these booths, and I'd probably walk right past the girl standing in front of the booth to go talk to some of the guys behind them. You know, I do it too. So I don't take offense to it. And I think that the good thing is people in the industry that know me and have fished with me get it. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter the thousands of other people out there that will see me at first glance and just form an opinion, but find out how much I can do about that when it's all said and done. But those opinions don't really matter.
No, and like you said, honestly, it's no different at ICAST. When I started there, I looked like Opie. You know, I was so young. And people were like, yeah, we're going to go talk to Van Dam. Thank you very much. And I can remember doing galleries for like FLW or In Fisherman, you know, for their magazine stuff. And people are like, you're with who? Like, yeah, I'm the guy that's actually doing this, just so you know. But so you get those things, and I think, you know, the only thing that probably heals that is time and just doing more and more. And as you blow up and I do more stuff and you're in more things, that's just one of those things that probably doesn't have anything to do with gender as much as it does just
time in the game.
Time and street cred just keep, you know, improving, and the more people, you know, I mean, we're in a network business. I mean, not that anything isn't, but the fish, just how we came together, you know, talking to a guy at Bassmaster, and then, you know a couple of your friends, and you know, the one friend's been telling me, like, you got to have her on the thing. And I'm like, I don't even look at kayak stuff. No offense. But
I know. I don't blame you. It's kind of like the ugly stepchild of the fishing world sometimes.
But yeah, you know, that whole kayak thing, it's one of those deals, again, sitting in meetings with different sponsors, you know, like Fish USA, for example. You know, supposedly, whoever they is, they say that, you know, kayak and ice fishing are the fastest growing segments of the fishing industry. So, again,
I've heard that a lot. Kayak fishing, I mean, you look at ICAST a couple of years ago, and you maybe saw one or two kayak manufacturers, and I think there were 10 there this last year. It's booming, and it's because the accessibility for people to get into the sport, it literally is the segue into a sport. You know, if you think about it that way.
I mean, I hate to say it, I did not have anybody supporting me at the beginning. It was very humble beginnings. And now I'm running a really nice boat that costs as much as probably a lot of people's houses, and, you know, and feeding that thing full of gas. And that's not practical for a lot of people to do. I understand that. And, you know, you look at a kayak, and I don't know what that number would be. Like you said, there's $200 kayaks, but you probably could be all in for, you tell me the number, $2,500 to $5,000?
No. Well, I mean, you could. Yeah, you could.
I'm not talking
kayak alone.
Not Maserati, but doing.
Yeah, a couple $1,000s. I think you get a really nice basic start with, you know, a little simple electronics and a little kayak. I think you'd be, a couple $1,000 get you a good start.
Do you have like a Torpedo, or however they say that? You've got the electric deal on your stuff too, right?
I don't. No. Okay. I like the, you know, like I said, I that's why I bow hunt over rifle hunt and shotgun hunt. I, you know, used to paddle for a long time over pedal. I like doing things the hard way for a long time until I finally give in. I still use my pedal drive kayak. I've got a Hobie Pro Angler.
On St. Clair, some days I imagine that might want to rethink that some days, right? North wind.
Oh yeah, man. I'll tell you what, if they came out with like a 15-foot power pole, that'd be great. I would have really could have used that the last couple days, but my legs definitely got to work out to try to hold my spot.
I've got a 15-foot talon on my boat, and I can tell you that I need every inch of that on certain days for sure.
I did. I needed 15 foot would have been perfect for me.
So again, just forget the woman thing, because that's the elephant in the room in this conversation. Let's just be real. But that aside, just somebody making a living fishing, because again, I can appreciate that. It's a 1% deal, if that, right? It's probably a quarter of 1% in reality.
For sure.
How? I mean, for you to do what you did, I mean, do you think that, I don't know how to even pose the question, but do you think it's easier to do that nowadays? To just, whether it's kayaks or boat fishing or whatever, to make a living fishing? Or do you think that there's just a lot of people that are lazy and there's more opportunity for you?
I think a little bit of both. With social media and several different outlets to make a living fishing, you know, you look at it now, you don't really even have to fish to make a living doing it. And that's why people see that opportunity and they're just, you know, delving into this deal because it's much easier nowadays. But with that becomes oversaturation, and you have to, in order to make a living, I think you have to truly set yourself apart. I think it's a little bit of both.
So do you think that, I mean, it makes it tougher for, I think it makes it tougher for me, but the people that are not really fishing, like you indirectly, I know what you were thinking, so I'm going to hit it head on. The people that literally don't go fishing, I'm not talking guys, women, whatever, but it's generally speaking a younger crowd that are making videos on YouTube that really either aren't catching a fish, or you look at them and like, you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a bait caster if your life depended on it.
It's entertainment.
Okay.
That's what it is.
There you go.
Yep.
So do you think that that makes it more difficult? Because it's like I worked pretty hard to get street cred, you know, and be known that I'm good at what I can do. And now you click on some of these videos and you're like, you can't decipher
garbage.
Yeah, you can't decipher the good from the bad, but yet so many of them aren't even trying to have any fishing.
Yep. That's a tough one because, like you said, it's I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't have time for that. But if you think about it, I think a large percentage of people on YouTube are people that aren't really out, really aren't spending most of their days on the water, you know, and so they're looking maybe more for an entertainment value or just some beginner tips or tricks. I know that there's a very young crowd that blew up a couple years ago. They got on YouTube early and now are doing baits and all that stuff. And I can't make it through 5 seconds of that crap. I can't. And I won't. That's not my. But they've done something right out there. And
there's some people making a serious amount of money. So I guess here's a question that's not really controversial. But do you have any companies that are maybe, I don't want to say pushing you, or maybe people that came after you that say, hey, you know, hey, Kristine, maybe we could go over here and do this, you know? Meaning the entertainment videos and...
No, but, you know, that's only because I vet my sponsors money does not buy me, if that makes any sense. I value... my true opinions, my feelings, and how I portray myself and my authenticity are worth more than anyone could pay me. Like I said, I don't need much to live. So when it comes to sponsorships, I make sure ahead of time going into it that one, that's a product that I've used well before they even reached out to me, that I can put my name on, that I can back 100%. Two, I have a relationship with those people, and then we talk everything else. So there are things that I just do not do and won't do. I don't care how much you pay me. So no.
I'm along the same lines, and I think that realistically, if you're not, you're going to be if you're going to stay in the business, because those are short-lived things. Those are short-lived. Yeah. They don't last.
Yeah, I'm a long-term. I'm in it for. I'm a relationship person. That's a respect thing. I'm some old-fashioned in that regard, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I'm more of a long-term type of person. I'm not a one-night sponsorship type of deal. So. I do a lot of vetting, and I make it known that there are certain things that I won't do because I don't want to do them. That's not me. It's not who I am. And I'm out here to be very transparent, very vulnerable. And I think that's more relatable anyway in the long term. And people get inspired by that more than anything.
So I know some people that think highly of your fishing abilities at this point, and you're not like exactly an old person. So, you know, obviously you look at guys, you know, I don't know when prime would be for a fisherman. I think it's younger than it used to be, because you see some of these guys on the Bassmaster Elite series that are, you know, they're jumping on the electronics thing. Maybe they're just hungrier, although a small percentage, but they're taking on the Van Dams and the Swindles of the world and doing well. Do you think that, you know, did you get into the kayak deal because it's more accessible? You know what I mean? You don't have to have all these things, or did you just really like kayak fishing that much, or?
You know, it was a little bit of both. Originally, yeah, I wanted to be smart about it. Like I said, I wanted to do this long term, and I'm a person that is very savvy with finances, and I didn't want to go into debt. I don't have any debt to this day. I've never operated that way. I started investing when I was 17. I read financial books when I was 15. My financial advisor, when I met him, thought I was a 6-year-old person on the phone because of my goals and everything. It was kind of crazy. So I said, I'm going to start out here and see what I can do with this, and then see where that goes. And, you know, starting in the kayak thing, it was accessible. I had success there. I was able to get out there and fish and travel all over the country by myself, loading, unloading my boat, handling all my gear on my own. And that was really important for me. and I didn't have any overhead. So that was a really good start. But ultimately, the goal, like I would love to fish the Bass Opens one day, and ultimately, hopefully, one day, get my ass kicked for years, but then maybe qualify for the elites if I can keep grinding. That definitely is a goal for me. And now I have the ability to get into that, but I had to start somewhere.
So the boat thing is definitely it's on the plan.
It is, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you go to the Bassmaster Classic and you sit in the stands and you hear someone like Ott Defoe say, like, if you've got a dream and you believe in God, anything can happen. Like, how can you not get goosebumps and want to walk across that stage? Like, that should be a goal for any angler. I don't care if you're chasing walleye or anything like that. Like, how could you not be inspired to want to go and just achieve one of the greatest feats in all-time fishing, right?
Well, that and the fact that I don't know what kayak things are like, not to beat a dead horse, but I fished an awful lot of walleye tournaments through the years, and even some bass tournaments and stuff. And you go to a walleye event, and there's maybe, if you're lucky, 100 people. Now, granted, we're not talking about the classic or the championship, but it's, especially with the internet, it's probably even worse. I have been to the Bassmaster Classic many times in many different places, and it's an extravaganza.
It is.
I mean,
yeah, it's cool.
I don't know what the attendance numbers are off the top of my head, but I know that they're enormous, and they're like a college sporting event.
It is. I mean, it's crazy, and it's super inspirational. And I've wanted to fish professionally, like on that stage, for years and years and years. And that is my goal one day, is to fish the Bass Opens and hopefully qualify for that. Like I said, get a slice of humble pie for a long time, but I'm pretty hungry and I don't quit. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, there's just probably more money. It's probably a lot more opportunities, in a Bassmaster Elite or Major League Fishing or FLW or whatever it would be. They're bigger platforms at this point.
Yep.
Obviously, kayak stuff has grown a lot in a short amount of time, and it's more accessible. I can almost even see, like, the Bassmaster stuff. I mean, these boats are $100,000, and you get 2 miles to the gallon, and so I could see that, maybe almost not getting smaller, but maybe not having the growth that these other things do.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what direction that's going to go. But so you like to fish, I like to fish. I primarily fish for walleyes because that's how what I'm known for and what I can make a buck, and I think I can catch one in a puddle, right? What's your deal? Because I see you got some pictures of some muskies. Obviously, you're talking Bassmasters Elite, so we're talking some largies, maybe some brownfish here. But I mean, do you have a closet deal with panfish or this musky stuff, or?
I'm a trophy hunter all day. I'm the person that goes out there in the worst weather and studies the behaviors of trophy fish, and will take that one bite over 100 type of deal. And musky, that's pulling at my heartstrings. If I've got one day to do anything, I'm musky fishing all day. And if I've got a tournament down on Chickamauga 1 week, and then I have a week break, and I got to go up to St. Clair, that middle week in between, you better believe, weather permitting and the temperatures aren't too hot, I'm targeting musky every single day. Day after a tournament, doesn't matter how tired I am. That is what drives me. It's my favorite fish to chase, and that's what I want to do all the time.
Is that because of the elusiveness, or because they're just giants, or?
I don't know if you've gathered this in our short little time talking, but I really prefer a challenge. I'm motivated by challenges, and that fish is probably one of the most challenging species out there. And they are. I mean, they're super elusive. You can go days without even moving one. That fish will mentally, emotionally, and physically break you, and I love that. I just do.
That's the crazy coming out that you hinted at right there. That's the woo, crazy. Yeah. Yep. Crazy girl. There are guys obviously that have that same thing with the fish at 10,000 casts and all that good stuff, and I think in a weird way that's kind of like me with walleyes. I'm always busting on my bass buddies. I mean, I know a lot of Bassmaster Elite guys. We're good friends through pro staffs or just where they live or what have you, and I'm always busting those guys. I'm like, dude, if I want to do a Make-A-Wish trip, I'll go beat on a bank with a spinnerbait. We'll catch some fish. I'm like, I would love to see an average bass guy go fish for walleyes.
But don't the bass guys say that walleye are like bringing in a wet towel?
Yeah, that exact term has been used towards me about 400 times. I don't know how many. One of my favorite shows that I do.
Cliche.
Yeah. And I tell them, well, I said, that wet towel is a feeling you probably won't feel because you probably won't be able to catch one because they're actually it takes a little bit of skill.
It does.
You can't beat the bank. those guys, I always tell them, I'm like, you got all these big depth finders on your boat, but you can see the bottom everywhere you're fishing.
There's a lot of truth to that.
So I guess, one question would be is if this thing didn't continue to work out for you, or maybe if you didn't get to this point, I mean, do you see, I think I already know the answer, but do you see yourself, doing something different, or could you, or would you just grind until somehow you made it in there, or continue to do more outdoor writing or whatever it would be?
Well, like I say, I'm not a corporate oriented person. I've never had a desk job. My whole family is entrepreneurs. I have that mindset, so I'll never go to work for somebody else. I don't think I'll ever leave the outdoors industry. My philosophy is you do something that you love, and that's a career. Like I'll never have a job. So if the fishing, I'll always fish too. Whether or not I make that a living, I can't say. I'm going to keep grinding and keep pushing and keep pushing. I'm going to let whatever doors open and let the cards fall where they may. But I'll always do something in the outdoors. I know that.
We haven't really got a good story. Every person that fishes tournaments or travels around fishing has a good story. You've got either a great story, a horror story. Realize the best stories involve pain and torture. I mean, where you just got knocked over 50 times. We don't want to hear like you won a tournament, every fish didn't come off. In your travels, you've got to have one that you feel like every time you go somewhere that this is the one you need to tell.
Yeah, I got one of those, and it's going to make me sound even more crazy than a redheaded hairdresser named Tiffany. But I can tell it if you want to listen.
Bring it, girl.
All right. So this is about 4 years ago after a big tournament down on Kentucky Lake. Again, after the tournament, I was exhausted, but it was March. I knew there'd be some opportunities for some pre-spawn, even some post-spawn musky fishing on one of my favorite rivers in Tennessee. So I was on Jackson's kayak fishing team at the time, and there was their marketing gal wanted to catch a muskie. She'd never been for one. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to fly back home. I'll use one of your kayaks. I'll bring my rod, ship my rod and reels and all my baits back. But can you get a net? Because I can't fly with a musky net. These things are huge. She's like, yeah, no big deal. And obviously a couple tools.
Oh boy.
So we get down there, and the net that she gives me,
for perch,
looks like a trout net. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, Bridget, how? So we can't even get the head of a fish in this thing. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like I've hand landed them before. I don't like to do that, but I can and do it safely for them and for me. So I thought. So we get out there on the river, and it's perfect. I mean, like dropping barometric pressure. We got a front coming in. It's right during the peak major, and I just am feeling it. Working this big crankbait from Lungin Lures, and halfway through my retrieve, this giant river fish smokes it. It's probably a 46, 47 incher, real healthy fish. Get up to the boat, land it, have my GoPro running, and I'm like, Bridget, I got one. It's a giant. And I'm lifting it up for the picture. Usually before I do this, I want you all to know.
Wait a minute. I'm going to stop you. Did you use the trout net?
No.
Okay.
No. I said I was going to hand land them. And
Okay.
I've done it before. I don't like to do that, but I can. And typically before I even lift a fish up for a picture, I remove the bait. I always remove the bait.
Oh boy, now I know where it's going.
Yeah. But this, the guys at Lungin are good friends of mine, and it was perfect hook right beside the mouth, and I was like, I'm going to get just a quick picture on my GoPro of the bait in the fish's mouth. GoPro's already running. I usually just pull still so the fish isn't out of the water for a long time. Well, I go to lift it up, and in a freak second, this fish does this head twist, and I'm not making this up. I don't know how it happened. One of the treble hooks was in the fish's mouth. The back big, this is not little walleye or bass trebles. These are those big 1X strong treble hooks, and one of the hooks got lodged into my left index finger about right there, and the other one on the same hook got lodged into my right index finger, so and to the bone. So on both of them.
You got pinned down.
The barb. Oh yeah.
And the fish is still flopping around.
Are tied to the fish, like, yeah, and the fish is as the fish is flopping around, both of my hands are attached to the treble hooks, and my hands are bound. I can't do anything, and it's shooting pain at both my arms. And I scream at Bridget. She comes over there, who's no experience with muskie, have you? And so in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do here?
You might as well have a dog or a sheep or something there helping you.
Yes. But like, bless her heart, she was able. I instructed her, through the excruciating pain to at least get the muskie unhooked. let the musky go, and then I'm sitting there with these 2 giant treble hooks buried into my hands. And you can't do the line trick because both the hooks are going opposite ways and both my hands are tied. And she FaceTimes a friend, and he's like, "You got to go. I've never seen anything like that. You've got to go to the emergency room." And I'm like, "No, we're right at the start of the major. This big front's coming in. Like, the fishing's incredible. We're absolutely not doing that." Yeah. So I'm not going to the hospital. We didn't have anything on the boat. I didn't have any of my tools with me. So I had to instruct Bridget to take one of my, if you have the Chaos Medusa that so I had her take one of those hooks on there and use that hook.
Now we know your secret bait, but go ahead.
That is one of my favorite baits, but I had her use that like a fillet knife and take the hook and start to slice my skin on my fingers to be able to pull the hooks back. And so there's like tissue and stuff coming on my fingers, and it took like 10 minutes to just keep flaying away to be able to pop both of those hooks past the barb out of both of my fingers one by one. And it was some of the worst pain I've ever had, but I ripped a piece of my shirt, tied it around my fingers tight, and kept fishing.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you around a needle or anything. I could tell you stories about hooks and the same thing. And I had the same kind of deal where I had a hook in between the fingernail. And it just ended up being one of those deals where out in the middle of Lake Erie, it's rough as a cob. It's Sunday morning. You know what I mean? Like, who are you going to get to do anything? And I just ripped the thing out. And I can remember parts of, like you said, ligaments or whatever it is that was on the windshield. And it looked like someone had taken, like, I don't even know what it would be, like some, like, spaghetti or something. Yeah. And it was like, oof. I still think that finger gets numb when it gets cold more. But I've learned. I
saw cartilage that built up from where this was so bad. Like it was down to the bone on this finger, and it's still like you push on it, you can feel the stuff built up in there.
Yeah, another one. I had one same thing. The hook stories. We could do a podcast just on that. I probably should, but the guys I traveled with on tour, we were fishing an event kind of close to home about 15 years ago. You'll probably appreciate this one. And I had a fin broke off in my hand. Okay, like a guy, like, it's a long story. Don't need to go there, but anyhow. And I didn't realize it, and I thought I got it out. So like 3 days later, I got like a heartbeat in my finger. You know, it was one of those deals, and it was all and I had a friend who's a plastic surgeon, and I sent him a picture, you know, or literally like email him a picture, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to come to my office now." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a long way from you. This isn't going to happen." But here's where the crazy girl comes in, okay? A different crazy girl. So 3 of these guys that I travel with, I mean, these guys, they might as well be bouncers as they are fishermen, because these guys are just like these big freak show, just one guy's a logger, you know what I mean? And we were going to have to he told me to cut it, you know, cross, do this, do that, and then how we're going to have to stitch this thing up. And 3 big guys could not cut me with a razor blade. But the lady that I was dating at the time had no problem slicing me right open with that, and didn't, without even hesitation. Kind of like when you said you were flaying your finger, that's immediately what I thought of, and I was like, "You did that."
I could have done that. And Bridget, this gal that, you know, she was a trooper, and I asked her to do that, and she did it. She just kept flaying away, and I don't think most men will do that.
No, it's that whole childbirth thing and just cutting. I've learned with women, they don't have a problem cutting things. It's probably could insert a really bad joke right now, but I'm going to let that one go.
I touch that one. I have my limits.
Yeah, me too. But that's a really good story. I don't know. We'll probably could just leave on that. I mean, so where have I misrepresented anything with Miss Fischer here, or where do you think that we haven't talked about that you're like, man, this guy's he's maybe a decent fisherman or something, but he's a terrible interviewer. Like he totally should have asked me this. Where did we miss the boat?
I think it was good. You know, I've got enough stories to sit around a campfire for 10 years, so we don't, you know, need to necessarily get into all that. But I think we covered kind of the basics and hit some of the, you know, I always like talking about the white elephant stuff because I don't have any issue with confrontation, and I that stuff is the, you know, exhilarating topic out there. So I love talking about that stuff.
I like it. It is. Some people, you know, when it's their main focus, it's a bad thing, but bringing it up every now and then it is real.
Right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, because I know you got some turkey scouting to do, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time, and I'm sure we'll be down the road fishing together at some point, or run into you at ICAST, or who knows where.
Absolutely. It was good having having to be a guest on the show, and I hope you guys get some good weather so you can get out in the water.
Oh, the weather's the key. That's for sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you for everybody tuning into the Bigwater podcast. Fishing is what we do, but sometimes we talk about it, and we had a heck of a guest today. We learned all kinds of stuff about kayak fishing and the fact that women, regardless if they fish or not, will probably cut you open and have no problems with it. I got more out of it than that, but it's a good reminder.
It certainly is.
Thanks again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.